Please welcome Mike Rianda. He's the writer-director of the Oscar-nominated feature film The Mitchells vs. the Machines on Netflix. Woo! He was also the creative director and writer, or one of the writers on Disney's animated show Gravity Falls. I don't know if you've heard of that one. And he is currently working as a writer-director for feature animation at Netflix. So let's give it up for Mike Rianda.
Oh my God! Hello, everybody. Okay. Yeah, how you guys doing? Yeah! To Paul! Let's get weird, baby! All right. This is opening slowly. I just want to say, you guys are beautiful. I'm so happy to be in Chicago. This is like one of my favorite cities in the world. I love the giant statue of the old woman that shoots water onto children. That's one of my favorites. It's very shocking. Everyone's talking about the bean. Let's talk about the old woman who's shooting water onto children. Anyway. Okay, hey, this is me, everybody. Someone made this for me. Sorry. Anyway, okay. So my name is Mike Rianda. I worked on, F and A, okay. I worked on a show called Gravity Falls. I worked on a movie called The Mitchells vs. Machines. Pixar, Cartoon Network, DreamWorks, CalArts. I've been rejected from all of them. Where have you been rejected from? Let's hear it. Call them out. Where have you been rejected? Laika, I love it. Anyone else? Disney, I love it. Hey, me too, baby. I'm so happy to be in communion with you losers today because I am also a loser. Today, we've all been rejected, but we will all rise like the goddamn phoenix together. All right, anyway. So my talk is called Art is Fun and Easy Once You Learn to Live with the Overwhelming Fear of Failure That Haunts Your Every Waking Moment. The Mike Rianda story. Okay, so this is me as a child. I have all the ingredients for a cartoonist. I have a love of cartoons. And I have deep, crushing childhood loneliness. So those work together to form me. And I was like, oh, maybe I could fill this hole of sadness with cartoons. And I did. I'm happy as hell. I love cartoons. It's great. But I was supported by the women in my family who said I can do anything. This is a little bit of a strange way to open it, but I'm going to say it anyway. They sort of had poured this love and support and said I could do anything. And when I was a child, I internalized that. And I now have what's called irrationally high self-confidence. And if you don't have it, maybe you don't have sort of like a family who told you that you were great your whole life. If no one has ever told you, let me do it for you. I believe you can do it. You out there in the crowd. I believe you can do it. I'm going to infuse you with the power of 1,000 grandmas. This is my grandma Aldine. She's the best in the world. But anyway, I'm serious about that because you have to have a very deep belief in yourself to do this job, because everyone will tell you. I have so many people tell me in my life that I was not good enough to do animation. And maybe they were right, but I kept going anyway. And I'm going to leave you with this is the end of the talk. No, I'm kidding. But I want to start with a Sun Tzu quote, which is victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first, then seek to win. I really believe this is true. You should visualize your goal and work backwards. It's embarrassing but empowering. I literally photoshopped myself winning an Oscar. See? This is embarrassing. You're kind of like, oh God, why is he saying it out loud? But it was helpful because I would look at that and I'd be like, how could I get there? And I didn't. I think you should ask yourself, what is your wildest dream? Whether it's directing a movie or having the greatest TV show of all time or just making a short that changes people's lives, whatever it is, you can work backwards and find people that have done it and be like, what did they do? How can I learn from them? We'll talk about that later. Anyway, so I was like, allow me to ascend to my drawing throne, Father. And then I started drawing. And I was like, I'm bad? What? The fuck? Well, how good do you have to be to get a job in animation? Oh, no. This is bullshit. I'll never be that good. Like, what's the bare minimum versus like where I'm at? This is me at like 13. Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ. That's a job in animation. There's me. I'm upset. I deeply contemplated this challenge. I was like, well, I love cartoons and drawing, and I want to do what I love for a living, but I hate stuff that's hard. And I'm not even that good at drawing, TBH. Also, I guarantee you're all better at drawing than me. So just like enjoy that. But according to like everyone, I can do anything. Again, this irrational self-confidence. So I was like, I will do it. There was literally a guy, Rob Renzetti, who worked on Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Laboratory. He worked on Gravity Falls. He was a really wonderful guy. And he would always be like, Mike, you're so much more confident than you should be. I was like, thank you, Rob. Anyway, Rob's a wonderful man. Anyway, and when I was a kid, I heard somewhere that Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, who in 1999 was like the guy, practiced guitar 12 hours a day. So I was like, okay, I'm going to draw literally 8 to 12 hours a day for years. That's going to be my plan. So I decided to ignore everything else in my life and draw instead. This is me. This is my homework burning. I got like a 2.4 GPA. It was horrible. It was great. Just kidding. It was terrifying. I felt so afraid and so alone. I literally had panic attacks, and I'd like wake up in the middle of the night, and it was really scary. And I would stay up all night, and my mom would like knock on my door, like, "What is he doing in there? Oh God!" I'm like, "Oh, I'm busy." And I'm like trying to learn how to draw hands. I'm like, "How can I draw like Rod Scribner?" And then 8 years later, I filled up all these sketchbooks, and I filled all those, with drawings, some of them. And I did get better, a little better. I was still not great, but I was like 23 when I did these. Because I'm not, just look at these, then look at these, okay? We're not there yet. But it still wasn't enough. I was rejected from every job I applied to. So I believed I could do it. I worked super hard. There's something missing. And that something missing is something I'm gonna tell you about tonight. The secret to success in animation is inside this box. Ooh, oh. Tonight we're gonna open this box, and let me tell you something. We're gonna lock the fucking doors, because only the DePaul students get this information. Everyone else doesn't get it. They don't get it. No one else gets it. Anyway, so what's in the box? We'll find out. This is how I learned its secrets. So I went from losing my mind at home with no job prospects and no future to eventually being a fancy director, where I was living the dream, except instead of burning my books, I was burning millions of dollars of studio money. So anyway, I believed I could do it. I worked super hard. What's the secret thing? So the thing I realized was I couldn't control how naturally talented I was, but I could control how hard I worked. I think that's really important. You should spend 0 hours of any day being like, I wish I was more talented, because you're as talented as you are. That's it. But you can work hard, and I will say, I went to school, a school called CCA, and I also went to school called CalArts, and at both those schools, there were people that were 100 times more talented than I was from day one. But I just worked my ass off, and I ended up doing well. So anyway, I was like, I'm working as hard as I can, but I was still, something wasn't clicking. So what was I doing wrong? I'm gonna tell you. I never put my drawings online, because I was afraid people wouldn't like them. I never showed my art to professionals. I didn't listen to my teachers. I never showed my peers my drawings. I couldn't apply to the school I really wanted. I was like, I can't, they're gonna reject me. And they did. I hid all my art in my sketchbooks. I never showed anyone anything. Why? Why was this? Fear. That's why. That's me. And that's a Babadook. You're right. If I had candy, I'd throw it to you, but I just forgot to bring it. Your life is a constant battle between fear and inspiration. Inspiration is a movie or show or a game or book you love, really good burger, being in love, the wonder of nature, a fun experience you have with your friends or family or loved one. A song you love, that's fuel. And you put in the fuel, then you get art. But sometimes that's gone, and you just have this guy. This guy sucks, and he's around all the time. Fear will come for you. Also, look, I did this in Storyboard Pro. I forgot to do the edges. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Fear knows where you sleep. Hey, you up? Your drawings suck, LOL. Luckily, there's this cool guy. Hey, I think you're great. Your drawings are good, actually, they're the best. Why show them to anyone? You don't even need to do your assignments. Let's chill on Instagram for a couple 100 hours. Wait a minute. That's just fucking fear, it's a trap. Horseshit. Who was that guy? Fear is a shapeshifter. You got ego, apathy, procrastination. Don't fall for these lies. My children. They're all the same guy. So you got your hopes and dreams. Look at you. Look at you. See, I told you I couldn't draw. Look at this thing. What the fuck is going on here? This is a hand? Anyway, you're walking and you're like, oh, your hopes, dreams. Oh, Jesus Christ, no! So I realized I was paralyzed by my fear of failure. I was like, oh, look at me, in life drawing. It was like I was playing a video game, but I couldn't bring myself to exit the training mode. It was like Mortal Kombat, but it was character animation combat. And instead of these cool warriors, I had this idiot. And it was me. You can only be you. And I'm stuck like this. So it was me versus artistic growth. And I was just, it was like, ready, round one, fight. I'm just cowering in a corner, like, oh God, no, please. He's like, Jesus Christ. So I hid because I was terrified to hear these words. You aren't good enough, you never will be, you're gonna fail. I would think that to myself all the time when I was drawing. I was like, well, this is not gonna work. And I figured if I heard this, I would die or something. If someone actually said those words, it'd be like, oh, cool, that's cool. Oh. I made this when Avengers came out, so it was really timely at the time. Anyway, but then I remembered, one day I'm going to die. And one day, you're gonna die. And that's really motivating. Because here I was, when I was in my 20s, I was doing data entry at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, which is a cool place, but doing data entry there sucks. And I was like, oh, it's okay, I can do this. I was dying inside. And I thought about the end of my life and saying, I regret everything. What did I do? Why did I do all these things? Why didn't I go for it? Like all I wanted to do was make cartoons and I didn't even try. So I said, nah, dog, I'm gonna fucking go down with this ship. I'm gonna try everything I can. So I'd rather die, fail, on my feet than live on my knees. I need to face my fears. This fear, it's scary, again. So I was like, I'm gonna destroy it. I will destroy it. For me, the thing I was afraid of doing was applying to Pixar. But this lesson applies to anything scary. So whether it's, I'm trying to apply for this job I want, or I entered this contest, or I'm making my student film, or whatever it is, this can apply to anything. Whether it's a monthly webcomic, you're doing daily Instagram posts, weekly storyboards, attending any college with art as part of it, etc. And just a note, animation, I barely need to tell you guys. You're already here. Whatever. But anyway, it's very hard. It's really hard. I used to have beautiful brown hair. Before the movie came out, I had brown hair. I had no huge bald spot. And I've aged like Obama or something. So it's really hard. So I just say, if you love it, great. You're going to be in for a fun, crazy challenge. If you don't love it, leave, because it's so hard. Anyway, so I joined back to, this is, again, character animation combat. This is Woody when I was applying for Pixar. This is sort of the personification of everything I'm trying to do. So I couldn't hide anymore. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try as hard as I can. There's a portfolio day where I could have shown my portfolio early and I didn't do it because I was like, ugh, I don't wanna do it. I don't wanna face it. So instead I just worked. Fear was like, following me. I did some of my best, but the thing I noticed is I did some of my best stuff as the deadline approached. So I finished and I was happy. And then I turned it in, and then Woody just fucking iced me. Boom, fatality. And this is how it felt. What it happened was I got a very nice letter saying, we are not accepting your portfolio. Fatality. And it was game over. I took it like a champ. I was sobbing in the shower. But then I realized something. I failed, and I didn't die. I'm sorry that that's covered up. I know a lot of you are crazy for what's on it. Anyway, but then the thing that happened that was really exciting to me was I saw who got accepted, because you could find out online, because I'm a creep. And I saw all the things I could have done differently. And I saw these artists that actually did get the internship. And I'm like, oh, I didn't do any of that stuff. These people are all so much better than me. But it was exciting because I was like, oh, that's where I need to get, and I'm not there yet. So even though I lost, I realized something. It was just a game. Like a game, if you lose, you learn how you died, you get better, and you play again. You go back to start. But you get to keep what you learn. Nobody can take that away from you. So I also learned, since I didn't disintegrate, my fear had actually shrunk. So he was so huge before, and now he's just like right there. He's like right there. I also did my best work right before the deadline, being chased by this guy. And I was like, you know what? I can't get rid of this fear. But what I can do is make friends with it. Because if you have too much fear, you're in paralysis. If you have not enough fear, you're a moron. So you want to get 25% fear, 75 inspiration, and then you become friends with this guy. And then instead of fear being in front of you and stopping you from moving forward, you're like, no, dude, get behind me, bro. I let him chase me towards my dreams like some kind of fucked up personal trainer. And I was ready to go back. I applied again. I set up a scary but possible goal of feedback and clear win-loss state. Fear propelled me forward. He was right there the whole time. My enemy became, boom, my new buddy. I made fear an asset. Sorry. I made fear an asset. It spurred me on to work smarter and not fear small critiques. I compared myself to people online, and I learned what I was doing wrong. I went to portfolio day, faced my fear. There's a really funny story. I went to, have you ever heard, you may not have heard of this. There's a thing called CTN, whatever. It's this conference in California, and a bunch of animation professionals are there. And Pixar was there one year, and Bill, I don't know if you guys know who Bill Pressing is. He's like a good artist. Anyway, he works at Pixar. And I was really embarrassed to show him my portfolio, and then I showed it to him, and he was like, I don't know, man. I had this one, storyboard about a shepherd, like an old style shepherd, like living in the medieval era, and he had sheep, and and then halfway through, he was like, the time for sheep is done, and his face like went like Total Recall and opened up, and he was a robot underneath, and then he started like riding the sheep who were shooting lasers out of their mouths and stuff, and the guy was like, I hate this. He's like, I hate everything about this. Don't show anyone this. And I was like, fuck you, Bill Press. Anyway, he's a wonderful man. But anyway, so then I don't know why I told this story. Anyway, I made 5 versions of my portfolio, and fear was just cheering me on. And also at the time, I did something kind of crazy, which CalArts, the school I wanted to go to, had a life drawing class, and I secretly would drive 8 hours to get there from my hometown, which is Northern California, and then 8 hours back, and I didn't tell anyone in my life system because I was embarrassed if I didn't get in, they would think I was crazy. So I forced myself to face the short-term fear of being judged, and I showed my portfolio to this guy, Corny Cole, who was like, oh my God, he worked on great cartoons, and he was like, you're terrible. But I got good and bad feedback, kept growing, learning quickly. I've remade my portfolio like 5 times. I learned how to fail privately in small ways quickly and learn from those failures. So they were like, not great, work on X, Y, Z. And then I learned from people that I was doing wrong, kept working, later, better, work on Y and Z. Learned, worked, better, okay, not bad. And I was like, whoa, hey. And then, by the end, I'm like smelly, like, take it. And this time, imagine the cool fighting, I won. I got the internship. But the Babadook is like, you did it, kid. I love you. Wow. I never won anything because I had never put myself out there. And I actually got into Pixar. But more importantly, I learned every time you lose, you're actually learning. When you're winning, you're winning. And when you're losing, you're learning. So you're always winning. It's great. So, by the way, this is like this triumphant story about me getting an internship at Pixar. It went horribly. This is my life dream collapsing like a drawing star. But then it was actually a good thing because it led to me getting a job on the show Gravity Falls, where I worked really hard. And then me and Alex Hirsch, who's the creator of the show, this is great drawing, we would show each other our scripts. And then we would really harshly criticize each other's scripts, and then say, this is great, this is bad, this is bad, this is great, let's rewrite it. And then we would rewrite it, and then eventually the show came out and did well. And because we really thought, I remember like one time I was like on the ground crying, and I was like, this show's never gonna be as good as Doug. It'll never be as good as Rugrats. It's gonna be terrible. It's gonna be like, it'll be worse than Cat Dog. So we failed constantly in private so we could succeed in public, because really for every script that made it to that show, there was like 8 to 18 drafts that were like way, way, way worse. And we kept showing it to people, finding out what's wrong, rewriting, showing it to people, finding out what's wrong, rewriting, et cetera, because we held a really high standard for ourselves. Same on this, the movie Mitchells vs. Machines. We had so many screenings that went bad or weren't as successful, and then we just worked on the problems, remade it, worked on the problems, remade it, worked on the problems, remade it. So when it came out, people thought like, oh, that was good, and it got good reviews, and people liked it. But if they would have seen any of the previous versions, they would have been like, what are you doing? So I felt like I was like learning the cheat code to life, because there's a gap between you and your influences. Because that's why you got into this. You love animation. Like for me, it's like The Incredibles and Miyazaki. And then on my side, I had my film that I hate in my portfolio. But here's what you do. You fill that gap with the corpses of your failures. And then you build a bridge of failed corpses, and you walk to success. And pretty soon you're gonna be as good as Miyazaki. Miyazaki's gonna be like, how could they? The DePaul students. They did it, they finally did it. So go forward and close the gap. I did it. I went from, my first year film that I made at CalArts was a success, but then I tried to follow it up with my second year film, and it was terrible. I got really cocky, and I was like, I could do anything, and I couldn't, and I failed. And then my third year film, this film called Work, was a relative success, and then again, I got Shadrach by Pixar, and then I went against Gravity Falls, and after Gravity Falls was a success, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try to write an R-rated coming-of-age story that's 2D animated. And it was like, I was like, I'm gonna do it indie, it's gonna be great. And I remember I told a movie producer about that. He's like, that sounds like box office cancer. Like, don't do this. I tried anyway, and it was really hard, and it didn't work out. But then this movie used to be called Connected, so it's not, anyway. But anyway, all that worked. And then eventually you had to face yourself. At the end, who's Goro or something. But anyway, so now you can learn, now that you've heard all this, now you can learn. It's time to learn. What's in the box? Yeah. What's in the box? What's in the box? Okay, I'm gonna show you. You guys ready? What is it? Ooh. All right. I taped it shut. Okay, what do you guys think is in the box? Nothing? A mirror? I like that. You're thinking about the right things. It is a sheet of paper from my hotel lobby. Ooh, and I'm gonna read it. One of you can keep this. All right. The secret is, this is my secret. It's so long. It should be shorter or like not a piece of paper. Whatever. 1, you have to have impossibly high standards. 2, work your ass off to reach those standards. 3, set ambitious but possible goals, ideally with clear win-loss states. 4, put fear behind you and let it power you forward. 5, make a rough version of your project quickly. 5, be brutally honest with yourself and ask others to be brutally honest with you. 6, make a new version, learning from your mistakes. 7, repeat until the deadline. 8, show your thing to the world. 9, learn from those mistakes. 10, repeat forever. Also, there's 11 and 12, which are become an animation god and transform into a supernova and blind the world with your greatness. Because all these heroes, all right, here we go. And anyway, so one lucky student gets the box. All right, here we go, baby. Ah! All right, who got it? Who got it? All right, come on up. Come on up to the stage. Give him a hand, everybody. Give him a hand. All right, okay. Welcome. What's your name?
Gary.
Gary, well, you are going to be the next animation god. And I wish you well. And what do you have to say to the people in your class? Gary! 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 Gary!
Okay, so as we all know, animation is really, really hard and really tiring. And we really barely ever really get any sleep. But you know what? At the day, it's kind of worth it. Because at the end of the day, even if they might not like it, your friends might like it.
Boom!
And maybe if they like it, other people might like
Boom!
it. So.
Give it up for Gary! Gary, you're a champion. Thank you. Okay. So all these heroes did that same tactic that I was talking about, including Gary. These people all did that same process. Pixar has that process. Phil Lord and Chris Miller have that process. The people on Saturday Night Live have that process, or The Simpsons, I mean. And people in Pixar had that process. And you could be next. Boom. Because let me tell you something. Have you guys seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse? Did you think it was a good movie? Great. I think it's like the best animated movie in the past 25 years. It's incredible. And I will say, I saw early versions of it, and it was so bad. Like, it was confusing, and you were like, why is there a pig in this? And at a certain point, it was like 2.5 hours long. Like, they did this process. They did the exact process that's in Gary's box, and made the movie into something that's currently, I would consider, a classic. So that's a secret. Because I really think story can change people's lives, and animation can change people's lives. And I think stories and animation can change the world. And I'm going to recite feedback to prove it to you. But there's been a bunch of studies about people reading fiction improving their empathy. Here's another article. This happened. This is true. Because when you're reading a book or something, all of a sudden you're transported. And the same thing happens when you're watching a movie, a great film, or a great TV show, or a great web show, or whatever the hell. You get transformed. Whee! Ah! You can live other people's experiences, which is something that you can't do in your normal life. So all of a sudden, you could be like, woo, moonlight! And you could sort of see what it's like to live in Miami as a young man. You could sort of, you can see what it's like to be a dying businessman. In Japan, you can see what it's like to be the loneliest robot in the world. You can see what it's like to be an immigrant going back home, or going back to your home country, I apologize. And you can see what it's like to live as a child in a magical world. Because it's one thing to say, remember childhood, but stories let you actually experience those moments. So it's like, there's a big difference between hearing someone reminiscing about childhood or reminiscing about it yourself and like actually watching a movie that really puts you in that place. There's also books like The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, which showed people what it was like inside meatpacking plants, and all of a sudden there was a meat inspection bill passed in the Senate that cleaned things up. Like, stories can literally change the world. Books like, Black Boy and Invisible Man raised awareness, started conversations, affected hearts and minds, helped prime significant cultural change. Same for movies like Brokeback Mountain, Mysterious Skin, Boys Don't Cry, etc. My mom, literally, this is a real story. My mom, I'm gonna out my mom for a little bit. She doesn't know about this. My mom used to be kind of like, have like kind of Republican views on LGBTQ plus issues. And then she watched Brokeback Mountain because she thought Jake Gyllenhaal was cute. And then afterwards, she's like, you know what? I think they should have the same rights as us. So stories can change people's minds. Maybe she voted no on Measure 8, this measure about same-sex marriage, and it really changed her life, you know. And a lot of gay people watched Ellen coming out and made it feel like, oh, maybe it's okay for me to. Because I think art creates emotions, emotions create beliefs, beliefs create actions, and actions create change. You can see something like this, like some quote on the internet. There never was a good war or a bad peace, and that kind of bounces off your head a little bit. Because you're like, yeah, what does that mean? Because you're not experiencing it. But then if you watch a movie like Grave of the Fireflies, one of the most devastating movies of all time, and actually experience the horrors of war through these characters, it forms a small, beautiful, delicate connection between you and the author. And you're like, oh my God, I would lose my mind if my mom died. I hope they make it. So then later, you're still thinking about it. And later still, maybe if you see some declaration of war, you'll remember Grave of the Fireflies, and you'll be like, no way. And maybe you'll take to the streets. Because I think art lights a fire in your heart, and people put that fire into their hand. These don't have to be big societal shifts. They can be small personal ones. These are movies about living life to the fullest. I really feel like I have a full, better, more active life after watching these movies because they've changed my philosophy. Like I said, my own life philosophy is partially shaped by these movies. There's stories about teaching you how to deal with family. For example, The Mitchells versus the Machines is based on my own father here and me, which became this guy looks exactly like my dad. And I told that story really earnestly because it was something that was in my heart. And I got this message. Just wanted to pop in and say, I watched The Mitchells versus the Machines last night with my little bro, 13. Also, I'm not telling you this story to say like, hey, I'm so great. I'm telling you this story to say even a crazy movie about Furbies can change people's minds. Just want to pop in and say I watched The Mitchells versus the Machines last night with my little bro. Our parents are divorced, and he's been outright avoiding our dad for the past 6 months or so. But after watching the movie, he went off to text Dad a long and super sweet apology for the way he's been treating him and offered to hang out during the weekend. Storytelling is magic, and I just want to thank you and everyone involved in the process for making this awesome film. I related to Katie on an unreal level, and apparently so did my brother. And then I responded with this. I'm crying. And this guy reconnected with his dad and got a moose tattoo on him. I mean, come on. And if I'm just a dope, so if I can do it, you can do it. Because I really think genuine representation makes people feel less alone and more empowered. So if you have a story, tell it. You will make people feel less alone. And that's beautiful. And you know, even if it's just a happy movie, can put you in a good mood for the rest of the day. Even watching a movie like Coco can make you want to connect with your grandma. I watched this movie. I read this book, What is the What? It was about Sudanese refugees. I started donating to families in Sudan. I watched this movie, Beginners, which is about a father or sort of a dying older relative, and I started calling my grandma twice as frequently. I really think if you share your honest experiences, it will make the world a brighter place. So just imagine, I just want you to imagine a world where Jim Henson was never born. Worse. The world is worse. Imagine a world without Miyazaki. Worse, shittier world. Rebecca Sugar, worse, shittier world. You could be one of these people. Brighten up the world. What story are you going to tell? Will you tell a heartbreaking, beautiful story about childhood? Will you bring people unfiltered joy? Sorry about the lossy JPEG. Will you make people, do you want to make people laugh? Do you want to celebrate your passions? Isaacen, what's up? Do you want to create a new genre? Do you want to make people think? Do you want to create a new style? Do you want to make people feel less alone? Do you want you can do all of these things in animation right now. And something that I think is really, really important, especially to you as students, don't wait. Don't wait for tomorrow or, oh, one day I'll get a job at a studio. Oh, one day I'll be able to do it. Just do it right now. Make a webcomic. Do it with your thesis film, whatever. Because now you have it. You can light a fire in people's hearts. You can make connections with people and connect to them. You can make the world a little brighter than you found it. And this could be you. So don't wait for permission. Do it right now. I believe in you. My grandma believes in you. Because I believe you can change people's lives, and I believe you can change the world! That's the last slide. That's it. That's all I got, baby. Devin Bell and I worked together at a company called Jib Jab. and I was a young lunatic, and I pitched like 1,000 ideas to them because they were making e-cards. And they brought me into this, and they're like, you can make e-cards of anything you want. They don't have to be lame. They could be cool. And I was like, great, let's do it. So I pitched them this, and they hated it. But it's a collaboration between me and Devin, in that he's in it. Oh, yeah. Okay, now can you hear the sound? No, now there's nothing. I would do the voices, only I do not remember how it goes. Okay, we'll do the voice. I'll do the voices. Okay, I'll do the voices. Okay. All right. So it's gonna be.
I'll do the sound effect.
Yeah. What? Okay. Hey there. How's it going? I heard you're sick. This is a card for sick people. You know what? I heard my doctor said I'm gonna get a lot better. I think things are gonna look up for me. I think everything's gonna be okay. He died. That's the point of that joke.
So Mike Rianda, everybody. Amazing. One thing that was left out of that story is Mike pitched the sick boy in storyboard form, and they loved it, and they gave us a couple of days to make it. And that was your first. Was that your first attempt at puppeteering?
That was my first. That's why it was so good.
So it was shot, edited, and then proudly presented. And at that point, the directors went, "Wow, we can't show this."
Who would send that to their friend? No one.
Right. So that one's not online anymore.
No, it's not online. Never made it online.
We just wanted to give you a little treat.
Another failure.
So, Mike, thank you so much for that incredible talk.
Sure.
I have a bunch of questions, but I thought I would start with the win-loss state, those challenges.
Sure.
Because that little tidbit was fantastic. Could you give a couple of examples, even like bite-sized ones you did, or theoretical ones that might be good for people to try?
No, I actually do that all the time. I'm making a movie right now at Netflix. I could tell you guys, but don't tell anyone. But I'll tell you the secrets. We're making a sequel to The Mitchells, and we're also making. I'm also making my own original movie. It's called Super Uncle, and it's about a uncle and a nephew who get pulled into a world of video games, and it's going to be great. But I just had a win-loss date 2 days ago because we have a script due at the end of June, and I forced ourselves to have a table read, to read the script halfway through and just see how it went. And it was scary, but it ended up. We had a table read a couple months ago. It went terribly. And then we learned from that, made a bunch of fixes, and we had another one now, and it went a lot better. And I've even done goofy stuff where I've given a friend a check from my checking account for as much money as I have, like $800 or whatever. And then I'm like, you can have this money unless I give you a script in a week.
Oh, wow.
And then he would be like, all right. I hope you don't do it. So it was really motivating. And that's sort of a crazy example, but I do think stuff like that has helped. I really think setting deadlines for yourselves that you can't get out of is really important. Because everyone wants to be like, I'll do it Friday. What if I don't do it Friday? Who cares? But if you really have another example is I made a fake show called The Deadline Show where I rented out a theater. And I had a bunch of friends join in, and they all made artistic projects, and they all knew that they had to finish them by like August 31st or whatever. So everyone did it, and it was great, and it led to a lot of great stuff.
Cool. That's great. So since you've started short films as a student, because you made like Everyone Dies in 90 Seconds.
Oh yeah.
It was more than 90 seconds, right? Wasn't
It
like
was.
a minute,
It was
which
like
is,
120 seconds.
right. So that was my introduction to your work.
Important to lie.
Right. And then you've really transitioned from making short form content, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, into sort of the commercial world, and then you went from that to television and television to feature. Could you talk about what you had to learn at each step? Because I imagine each one had different challenges that you felt maybe out of your depth. And what were some of the things you had to learn at each step?
I think the biggest challenge I think I really think that the more time is involved in your project, the harder it becomes. So I would really encourage you guys as students to start small. Like start with something that's a minute and just make that successful before you start something that's 3 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. Because when I made that 90-second film, I was like, we should be able to make 10-minute movies. And then my next year, I made a 10-minute movie, and it was terrible because it's so hard to make something longer. And that was the biggest thing I learned when I went to Gravity Falls. Is it was like, you can get away in a short film with some funny jokes and a nice payoff, and in a longer 22-minute thing, you have to really care about the characters, or else the audience is so bored. Even if the jokes are great, they're just like, I don't care what's going on. And in a movie, it's even more. You have to like go deeper into the bedrock of what makes these characters tick and all that stuff. So I guess I would just say sort of like, the longer it is, the higher the rate of challenges. So I do think it's a really smart thing to go from like a minute to 2 minutes to 3 to 5 to 10 to whatever, because then it will sort of train you. Because that was the biggest thing I learned is really having to, you have to care about your characters. The longer it is, the more the audience has to care, or else they'll tune out.
So could we talk a little bit about Gravity Falls specifically?
Sure.
So what were some of your favorite victory moments on that show, that maybe felt like a failure, and then you turned it into a favorite moment or something?
Totally. No, I mean, I have a very clear example. There was an episode of the show where the kids are at a haunted mini mart, and it was called The Inconveniencing. And I worked on this so hard. Like, I was like, this is gonna be like a John Carpenter movie. It's gonna be so fucking cool. It's gonna be great. And then I worked on it really, really hard. And then actually my childhood hero is this guy named Aaron Springer, who's this great cartoonist. And he was the director on that episode. And we had a table read in front of him. And this man looked at me like an Easter Island head, just didn't crack a smile. And I'm like, you're my hero, Aaron Springer. I hope you laugh at my jokes. And he was like, okay, I guess I'll direct it. And I was so devastated, and I was like, it's terrible. And then we worked on it, and it did have problems, I will say. But then we worked on it, and we redid it in boards, and we redid it in script, and then eventually, by the time it came out, it got a really great response, and we got we got an A from the Onion AV Club, and we were like, yes! Like we tackled each other in the halls and stuff like that. And also, I got the opportunity to watch it with an audience, and it was great because the audience really loved it. So that was. Oh, and I forgot to tell the most important part of the story. After Aaron Springer stared at me like a Easter Island head, I went to lunch with my wife Molly, who's here. And then I went to the bathroom and I barfed in the bathroom because I was so stressed out and freaked out that my hero didn't like my cartoon.
Right. So it felt like a big low.
Yeah, it felt like a low, and then it ended up being, people remember it, which is great.
Could you talk a little bit about the process of your work on Gravity Falls? How big was the team? Mm-hmm. Well, and then the other thing is you mentioned writing and rewriting scripts, but then there's also boarding, and you also mentioned test audiences.
Yeah.
So could you take us through a little bit about like a slice of how a show is written, boarded, developed, tested, things like that?
Yeah, no, I was actually really lucky on Gravity Falls because the person who ran the show, Alex Hirsch, we got along really well. So I was really let into every part of that process. So it would start by writing a script, then you would read it to the crew, and then they would have their feedback, and then you would try to rewrite it and make it better. And then you would eventually give that to the storyboard crew. They would storyboard it out. Then you'd all watch it together as a family and make and sort of be like, oh, this could be better and this could be stronger, and maybe we rearrange the story beat, and maybe we add another beat, and blah blah blah. And then you showed that to the at least at the time, you showed that to the executives, and that was like your big moment. And then the executives would give notes, but we usually had like 10 times more notes than executives. We'd be like, you have notes, we have notes. And they're like, Jesus, kids, I don't know, just whatever, it's a Disney Channel, do whatever you want. So then we would do notes. Before that, then we would send it to animation. Even after animation, we got to tweak with it a little bit, not that much. Oh, wow. And then it was released to the public. But there was a lot of iterating, and I think more than most shows. And the studio ended up hating it because it made the show cost more money. But I think it ended up helping the show overall with the long run.
I see. Cool. So transitioning, did you go right from that show to work on the Mitchells versus the Machines, or it was connected? Yeah. To kind of, and you were writing your own feature screenplay and shopping it around? Yeah. No, I was writing on Gravity Falls, and I did a very smart thing that I would encourage all of you to do, which is lie. But I basically had a situation at Gravity Falls where my boss was like, hey, I would like you to be more involved in the movie, or more involved in the show. How can you do that? I want to call you a creative consultant. I was like, hold on. If you call me a creative director, then the word director will be in my title. Then I could use that to get another job later, and it worked. Because I was called creative director, I was really kind of like assistant showrunner guy or something like that. But then I remember, and then I used that to get a job in feature animation. And I was like, I'm a director. I've directed all the time. What are you kidding? I love this stuff. But I never directed anything. And then at a certain point, I told my producer that, and he's like, hey, Mike, close the door. Don't ever tell anyone that again. Keep that, bury that. I didn't even like hearing that. So, nobody will check. Is the point of this story. Just say whatever you want. But yeah. So basically, I worked on Gravity Falls, and after the first season, I realized I was like, I'm pouring 12 hours a day into this show, which I love. But I was like, at the end of the day, it's not my show, and there's another season. And I don't know if I'm going to learn that much from just doing the same thing over again. So I was like, I'm going to write my own R-rated coming-of-age story. And then I did, and everyone's like, oh, this isn't that good, Mike. And I was like, oh, no. But then there was an opportunity at Sony to direct something. I got really lucky. A lot of the stuff about me is I just got lucky. It's a little bit of luck and a little bit of being in the right place in the right time, because also the guy who hired me had seen me on Gravity Falls and knew that I worked my ass off and that I brought a lot to the show. And anytime because he was in development, and he asked me for notes on things, and I would always give him like the most crazy, intense 18 pages stapled of notes in Microsoft Word. And he's like, Jesus, dude, I just wanted like a sentence. But I think he was impressed, like, okay, this guy clearly has thoughts and stuff. But it sounds like you had a pretty clear drive or goal on the show that you knew you wanted to do something bigger that came from you. Totally. So you started working on that simultaneously, right? Yeah, totally. And it was hard because I really thought I could work on it simultaneously to working on a different show, but it's so draining working on a show or something that I just never had energy at the end of the day. But so that is another reason why I quit, because I was like, I need time to actually do this. So yeah. Cool. So I know we have a bunch of storyboard students in the crowd, and even if you guys aren't storyboard concentrations, I know a lot of people pre-visualize their own stuff. So I was going to ask just the differences in how different departments work. Like on Gravity Falls, what are the differences between that story crew versus Mitchell's versus Machines? Are they wildly different, or are they run the same way? Were you looking for different skills in storytellers? They're kind of the same, honestly. I mean, I think, because the Gravity Falls was for what it was a very cinematic show for being like a Disney Channel show. Like, so we were always trying to get like feature quality board artists. Because there's a certain, because it's not feature quality or TV quality. That's sort of a
false dichotomy, but it's like some TV is animated very like locked off camera, SpongeBob style.
Right.
You know, there's not a lot of camera moves or that sort of thing. And then
sitcom-y or something.
Yeah, exactly. And feature, it's like dynamic shots and storytelling and all that stuff. So honestly, we're kind of basically pulling from the same types of people. And on Mitchell's, it was probably the same size. The difference in feature is that feature's kind of crazier. TV, I guess what I would say to you is if you have an opportunity to work in TV, I would do it. Because it really is like, it's almost like lifting weights or something. Like you get really strong really quickly because you work on a bunch of stuff and then it gets ripped away from you and you can't like noodle it forever. Versus like a movie where we spent like literally we spent like 6.5 years on Mitchell's, which is too long.
So people could redo a scene 12 times to get little nuances right, whereas that wouldn't happen in TV.
Exactly, yeah. And so it's like, it's kind of healthier to work in the TV way just because you get like pencil mileage and you learn to be better quicker. Yeah.
So in terms of like building those skills that storyboard artists need, how would you recommend young artists, emerging artists balance sort of focusing on solid drawing versus character acting, cinematography, like a knowledge of cuts and editing?
That's a great question. I mean, the bummer is that you need all of it. But I do think that solid drawing foundations should go first. Like if there is a pyramid of storytelling greatness, I would put solid drawing at the bottom of the pyramid, and I would put like acting in the middle of the pyramid. Great. And then I would put camera work on the top. Because camera work is like, you need to be able to draw well in different angles to do that stuff anyway. So it's like having the solid drawing chops, I think, is the baseline. And it's hard. I mean, and the thing, I would sort of like do exercises and stuff, and I was not good enough to board on a major level, but I sort of found my lane in writing and that sort of thing. So, you know, that's another thing too, is like, if the thing that you're going for breaks your heart, you could try something else. You know what I mean? Like, because I thought I was going to be an animator. And then when I noticed there was this kid, Jeff Liu, who ended up boarding on Stephen University, he's really great. He was like 18 and I was at CalArts when I was like 25. And I was like, I've been drawing since I was 10 and I have 1,000 sketchbooks. He's like, I started drawing last year.
When I was.
And he was so much better than me. I was like, Jeff Liu. And he's great. But it was like, that was sort of like also a wake up call, like, oh, this isn't your thing. You know, you're better at storyboarding and you're better at storytelling and writing and that sort of thing. So all that is to say, like, find your lane and you know, whatever your like, just gravitate towards the thing that, whatever is in the middle of the Venn diagram of like stuff I'm good at and stuff that I love. If whatever's in the middle there, that's what to shoot for.
Cool. And what did you pick up on Mitchell's versus the Machines in terms of, because that was really your directorial debut. Yeah. You must have been split in a million different directions, running around talking to actors doing voices, story teams, production meetings, and all that. I mean, what are some of the big takeaways? From that experience? Because you were the top.
No, it was really that was really such a great learning experience, and I would say that the most important thing that I learned on that movie is. I learned it from Chris Miller and Phil Lord, who are the producers on that movie, who are really wonderful. They're sort of like, don't meet your heroes, and these guys were like the best.
They were great.
They were great. And it was really like having my heroes like coach, like, get in there, kid. And the thing they sort of taught me was that I was clinging really hard to like my vision. So that like we'd be in the voice recording studio and then some great actor like Maya Rudolph or something would read the line in a different way than I imagined in my head. And then I would like kind of try to trick Maya Rudolph into saying it like I said it. I'm like,
how'd that
what
go
can
for
I
you?
Say? Maybe your voice goes up a little bit at the end or whatever. And it was like, and they were like, Mike, you stop doing this. Like and they said a thing that was really smart, which is like, you're sort of directing out of fear. Again, fear, it's a real common thing. And he's like, you need to like direct out of inspiration. So it's like, give people something to shoot for,
and like, hey, this is the area to play around with. Say whatever you want. How would you say it in your words? Oh, that's funny. Maybe add on to it like this. And then, because then they're like having a sense of play and they're fun and they're participating, so they're more invested. So I guess it is whenever you're like, if you do have a team or you're working on a collaborative project, which in animation you always will be, it's like you can get the best out of people by inviting them in to innovate with you, as opposed to saying, here's what you need to do. Because that's sort of what I thought directing was at first, was like, listen, you have to do what I want you to do. And then people surprisingly hated that. And it was much better when it was like, oh, here's where we're trying to go. You know, we want this movie to feel like it was done by a kid in their sketchbook. How can you add to that? And then artists get really inspired and like, oh, what if there's this architecture? And what if there's actually lines around the characters? And oh, what if the jacket has like weird little curly cues on it and stuff like that? And all of a sudden, everyone was really invested and excited about the goal. So if you can sort of say like, hey, here's the goal, where the goal is, can you help me get there and come up with your own ideas to get there? Then everyone gets more invested. And if you try to say, here's exactly how to do it, everyone hates it. It sucks.
Right. It sounds like you learned how to apply that to every department too.
Yeah.
Like, so you want to empower animators, empower storyboard artists. Would you sort of cast different artists based on their style? Because when you describe like working with actors doing voices, that's pretty intuitive because they're like the origin of the character. How does that apply to the people adding visuals on top of it? Like, how do you empower an animator to animate well to Maya Rudolph?
No, I mean it's exactly the same process, and I had the exact same problem in story, where like I remember Phil Lord was being like, he has long curly hair, and he's like, Mike, why do I hate this? And I was like, I don't know, Phil. I hope you like it. But it was but he sort of was able to like correctly diagnose the problem. He's like, I think these animators are trying to match the boards, and I think they're scared. And that's exactly what was going on.
Oh, wow.
Is I was like, match the boards. I was like, match the boards 1-to-1. That's the job. And it wasn't until I was able to say like, oh, the emotion is Rick feels devastated. So think about times you felt devastated, or what do you think this character, and shoot some reference and get inspired and watch some movies. And then all of a sudden they're doing like, I did 5 versions of it. Which is the best one? And then all of a sudden they're inventing and they're creative and they're in on it. So it was the same process.
Wow.
And really the movie is infinitely better, because I really do think it's like, movies, it's like people have this like auteur theory of movies or whatever. And it's like, the best movies, everyone's an auteur. Like everyone is pouring themselves into it. And I that's one of the proudest things of that movie, is I can point to any frame and say, Hannah Cho did this storyboard, and Guillermo Martinez did this funny revision on it, and Alan Hawkins did the animation, and like Chelsea painted it. Like I know all the people who did it. And they all added their own special sauce to it.
Right.
And then when you see it, it's something you've never seen before, because it's like all these people just freaking out doing their weird thing.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. Also, that process really sounds so different than TV, though, because
yes, it is.
TV is. I mean, when you were talking about iterations and like having somebody do 5 versions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like blocking with an actor on set or something, compared to like, follow the poses.
Yeah.
This is going overseas, right?
No, totally. It is true that TV is like, you have to be a little bit more rigid because there's not as much time.
Right.
Like you can kind of be a little bit more, you're like, let's just play in the space because you've got like years.
Yeah.
Versus like TV, it's like you got a month, and it's like, you got to get this line reading right. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
But I will say that is what's really exciting about features is that everyone does get to play their own instrument.
Wow.
But I do think in the best TV too, you can find ways to do that even in a limited budget. But you just have to have people that you can really rely on and trust. But it's harder.
Yeah. I think I have time for one more question, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. What would you tell the young artists in the audience, or middle-aged or old audience artists in the audience, who are hoping to kind of hone their skills to build their portfolios? Do you think storytelling or being like an auteur versus like technical exercises? I mean, what advice would you give to people
definitely.
who want to sort of start on that path?
I mean, I definitely think do things that you love, not things you think other people will love. Because that stuff really shows through in your portfolio. That's a real like kind of airy-fairy thing to say, or artsy-fartsy, I guess I was going for. Either way. But it is true. I mean, I really think that if you have a voice, that shoots out of the, like, don't hide yourself and say, oh, nobody cares about my stories or whatever. They do. That's like. So often you'll see a portfolio and you're like, oh, I can tell this is a personal story. And because of it, it's like kind of crackling with weird energy. And that's exciting. And then I'm going to hire this person versus somebody who's like, I have seen the art of books and I'm going to copy them slavishly. It's so much more fun to have somebody like bring themselves into it. So I would just say, like, don't hide yourself. I mean, you have to have technical skill. Oh, and Jesus Christ, here's a real rule. Put your fucking email everywhere. I'm not joking. Always put your email at the top of your Instagram, in your portfolio, because I've literally not hired people because I don't know how to contact them. It happens all the time, where you're like, what is this guy? What? He's good. I don't know. Okay, next. So that's a weird one, but I think it's like, show who you are, do all the good technical stuff, but also don't hide yourself and put your email at the top.
Awesome.
Then you'll win.
Cool. We're going to open it up to Q&A in just a moment. Oh, it's actually Q&A time. So we have a microphone on the right side for you guys. If you want to line up and queue up, we can ask questions of Mike.
Woo. Give people a second. Yeah. Am I good to go? Or is it?
Hello.
I want to say, first off, I love all the stuff you've worked on. I love Gravity Falls. I cried like 3 times while watching Mitchells vs. Machines. That came out like right when I moved to Chicago for college, so I was very like, oh, it's so good. But something I wanted to ask you about, since at the Paul, I feel like we do a lot of like independent projects. We do have the opportunity to like do stuff with teams and stuff. Yeah. But me personally, I feel like I've done a lot like on my own and like with animation and storytelling. So I wanted to ask you with Mitchell's, I know it's like a bit of more of a personal thing with your family in the story. So I wanted to know what that story making process is, working with personal ideas and with a whole team of people who can like inject stuff into that.
No, that's a great question. I think always starting with something personal is the best way to do it. Personally, I mean that's but because like I think then you're coming from a place of honesty, and I also think then you can sort of say, okay, here's what I'm working on, here's where I'm coming from, and you share it with your crew or team or whoever, and say, what could you bring into it? So then I sort of feel like at the end of that movie, it was sort of about all of our families. It was like. Rick had qualities of Phil Lord's dad and and Jeff, who was the co-writer and co-director's dad, and all this stuff. So it's like it kind of became all of our stories together. But I think starting from a personal place really like lights a fuse. So I would always encourage you guys to start with a person, like coming from a personal place, and then extending an invitation to people to say like, hey, how can you add on to this? Even if it's not exactly your story, like how can you relate to this? Because that's also a good test to see if the story is good or not, or see if the story is not good or not, but like maybe universal or not. Sometimes people are like they tell a story and it's like, I don't know what are you talking about? But if it's a good story, everyone will be able to relate to it, whether you're in Japan or Norway or whatever. So yeah, I would say start from a personal place and invite people to join.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a great question.
Hi, I just wanted to say also Mitchell's vs. the Machines is one of my very favorite movies of all time. So I'm super excited to be here at this talk.
Hell yeah.
And when I love your energy, I think this talk's been very fun as well as very inspiring and motivating. But I wanted to ask you, what would you say is the number one thing that took your portfolio from a fail or a no to a yeah, this is great, this is a win?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It was. I really think it was. I took a summer. I have an exact answer to your question because I had a portfolio one year that got rejected and a portfolio the next year that got accepted. And the difference was I took off a summer and I just worked on storyboarding, and I gave myself assignments, like kind of like the win-less state that I was talking about. I give myself assignments every week where I was like, this week I'm going to do a short storyboard based on a newspaper article I read. And this week I'm going to do a short storyboard of a couple pages of a book I like. And this week I'm going to do a storyboard of fan fiction of this show I like, or whatever. And then I'll never tell you what it is. But then it was Star Wars. But then it was. So it was just basically like a month of just. And I would look at my storyboards at the end of the week, and then I would literally compare them to like Coen Brothers stills or Scorsese stills or whatever, and I would like write down what they were doing that I wasn't, and I'd be like, oh, they're using 1-point perspective and I'm using kind of flat perspective. Okay, next week I'm going to try to do better on that. The acting is better in this, and I need to up my acting. Blah 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 blah. All these different things. So basically, I just spent a month. I spent like 3 months on it, and I took off a summer. Not everyone can afford that time, but if you can, just specifically honing in on the thing you're trying to do, and also comparing yourself to people who have gotten the jobs that you want to get. That was another way I did it. I knew this guy. Eric Benson, it doesn't matter his name. This guy Eric Benson, who got into Pixar, and I was like, okay, what did he do in his portfolio that I'm not doing? So that was what I ended up doing.
So thank you so much.
No problem.
This happens a lot. I'm very tall. Hi, I also love Mitchell's, and
nice.
It was very weird to see a movie as I was about to go to college about someone about to go to college that was born around the same time as I was.
Yeah, cool.
That doesn't happen a lot with movies, so it was very fun to see. I just wanted to ask, how do you find time to make personal projects like webcomics and films when you have to balance work and school and just like general life stuff?
No, I mean, look, that's a great question. I at one point, I tried to solve this by becoming a security guard, because I noticed, I was like, this guy in the security booth, he just sits there all day. He could be drawing. Then I get paid to sit there. But I think they were like, you're going to keep this place secure? You? And I was like, and they didn't hire me. So that's maybe not a great example. But I mean, I guess the thing to be would be, truly, it's like, it's tough. I mean, I don't have an awesome answer for you. Like, the way I ended up doing it is I worked a little bit and made some money, and then pulled the ripcord and quit my job for a couple months, and then worked on my own stuff, and then until I ran out of money, and then I got another job. So that is one way to do it. That's probably not the smartest way to do it.
Anyway, it's one way to do it.
Yeah, but I think sort of like maybe trying to be dedicated, like, okay, I'm going to work on this an hour a day, and whatever that hour is, that's as much as I get done, and I'm not going to be mad at myself if I don't work 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever. It's just trying to sort of like integrate it into your life however you can. It can be exhausting when you have a bunch of other stuff, but like, you know, sometimes the answer is, because I know some people where the answer is just get a low paying job that you don't care about as much, so it doesn't take a lot out of you. So then you could sort of draw on the weekends and that sort of thing. But it's hard. I don't have an awesome answer. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back down. Hi. Yeah. I was just like, you were talking a lot about Gravity Falls and the writing process and like going through the constant drafts. I'm very curious, like, how do you know when a script is done and like when to lock in and like start sending it over? Oh,
great question. You don't. You never do. It's just done when they rip it out of your grubby little hands. No, I think that's really true, because you know, everything, especially episodes of Gravity Falls, like, they went away from my hands, and I would like be like, oh, it's terrible. I would have changed so many things. And we just had to sit with that. And sometimes the episodes would come out and they would be bad. And sometimes people didn't notice as much. Like, there's this episode called Mermando, that I wrote on that thing, and I hated it. I was like, Alex, this sucks. Like, we should just not release it. And he's like, I think if we add enough jokes to it, it'll be fine. And he never gave up on it. I was ready to quit. I was ready to be like, this is just gonna be like a C episode. And he's like, no. We can add a bunch of weird jokes at the last minute. He had this one where like the guy had a watch, and he's like, yes, blind the child. And it was like, he never like quit trying to make it good, even in like the last stages of the game. So I guess my answer is you don't know when it's done. It's just done when the deadline is. So I would just say sort of like make your deadline really hard and fast so you can't wiggle your way out of it, because you're gonna want to. Because you're gonna say, I have more, there's more to add. But you just have to fight that and just let it be done. And you're never gonna love all your, but I think the secret is just getting as many at-bats as possible. So it's like, work on something for 2 weeks, for a month or something, and then just be done with it and start a new thing and be like, the next thing will be better. Because if you kind of try to work a thing over and over again, it's just gonna get like, you're gonna kind of start going crazy and not know if it's good or not, and the thing will suffer because of it, because it won't like feel fresh anymore. So I would just try to do a lot of little things rather than like one big thing that you're like, this is my statement to the world. Like it's to me better to do a bunch of like 60-second little farted out shorts on Instagram or something than like, I'm gonna make a 90-minute movie alone, like Bill Plimpton or something. Even though Bill Plimpton is great, I still think it's better to make a lot of short things.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Hi, I just want to say it's an honor to meet you.
Thanks.
Gravity
An honor to
Falls-
meet you. What's your name?
Sam.
Hey, Sam.
Gravity Falls was just my favorite show growing up. And it had such an impact on me. This isn't as interesting of a question. Maybe it's like choosing a favorite kid, but what was like your favorite project to work on and your least favorite one to work on, and why?
My favorite project was Sick Kid, a collaboration with Devin Bell.
It was fun.
My least was Gravity Falls. I hate it. No, I'm kidding. I love Gravity Falls.
Next question.
Next question. My favorite was probably Mitchell's. That was the most like creatively satisfying, just because I got to make all the decisions. At least most of them. The studio didn't. We had a couple jokes that they didn't like, but it was fine at the end of the day. I think that one, just because I got to sort of like work creatively with so many different people, and really that was when I sort of learned best to collaborate with people, because I think on Gravity Falls, like I was so sort of like focused on my own thing. I was like, the writing isn't perfect, but I didn't really work with the artists and stuff that much. So I think Mitchell's. And least favorite, I've been really lucky. I haven't worked on anything that has been a true turd. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think we have time for 2 more questions. We're winding down, but we'll see how long they take. So go ahead.
Michael, how's it going, Dan?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So first off, one little thing, because it seems like it's mandatory to come up here and say something about Mitchell's. So first, like your designs were uncanny, because literally everyone in my family looks like the Mitchells. I'm Aaron.
Yeah.
Everyone. I have an older sister that looks like exactly. It's funny. But my question to you is, so. Now, there's a few people in this audience who learn to do everything by themselves, and I call them Swiss Army knives. Yeah. I'm myself in one. I've worked on a feature film. I did almost everything myself with a team. And what I want to ask you is that for those Swiss Army knives who have so many skills, whether it's editing or like doing art, you did voice work too. For those Swiss Army knives, do you think that for jobs in general in this industry, that there is a more they want more someone who is only specified in one specific field, or someone who has all these different skills? They're like, yeah, you can do all these things. Like, come here. Like, yeah, work for us. Like, what do you think? Yeah.
That's a great question. Because I actually think the best combo is you should be a Swiss Army knife. Because I think that's like, because the school I went to, CalArts, you had to make 4 films every year. So you had to learn how to edit, you had to learn how to write, you had to learn how to, not every year, 4 films a film a year, anyway. But you had to learn all those skills, and because I knew all those skills, I sort of became, I now can kind of edit. So when I'm talking to an editor, I know what I'm talking about at least a little bit. And if I talk to an animator, I know what I'm talking about at least a little bit because I've animated before. So I think having those skills are really valuable. However, I think the thing to do, it's like kind of an advertisement job. When you're selling yourself, just sell yourself, like it's having a portfolio where you're like, I do everything. People will be like, next. Because I will say, here is a truly brutal thing that is true that I think students should know, is like, I've been in a position to hire people before, and this is how you look through portfolios. And then you're done. And then you look at it, done. Oh, this person's good. Put them on the list. Or whatever. Like, it happens really fast. And I think that if you sort of advertise yourself as a jack of all trades, it's bad. However, you should say, oh, have a story portfolio that's just story, have an animation portfolio that's just animation, be like, I'm Johnny Animation, I'm Johnny Story, I'm Johnny whatever, and have 3 different portfolios and make it seem like that is your passion, because when people are looking for an artist to work on their film, they're really looking for one thing. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, great, this person can do the thing we need, they're hired. So it's really, knowing all that stuff is great and perfect, and that will help you. And people will even be able to see it in your portfolio. But I would advertise yourself just as individual jobs, because you'll just fit into the industry better that way.
Okay, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
All right, I think we definitely have time for one.
I'm sorry, I haven't watched The Michaels and the Machines.
Hell yeah. Favorite question.
But I know, it's a statement, it's a question. But I am a devotee of Gravity Falls, and
Cool.
I will say, I think it's much better than Doug.
Oh, thank you. Eat it, Doug.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Doug is great.
That was the title of our talk.
That being said, or in relation to that, it's writing-wise, animation-wise, kind of an audacious show, especially for the time it came out. And my question for you, because it seems like it's a going theme in a lot of your work, is maybe not out there work, but like slightly audacious work. And how do you pitch that to board members, to team members, to people? Like, how do you pitch an idea that is maybe not like immediately obvious as to, oh yeah, this is sold before, this works?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I mean, I think the secret there is, I think you just get people as excited. You have to figure out a way to get those people as excited as you are, whether they're working at a company or whether they're on your team. So basically what I try to do when I'm like pitching a movie to someone or something, I will just say all the things about it that make me really excited. I'm like, this is a movie that's about family, it's about life, it's about love, and it's got the craziest art style you've ever seen. It looks like a hand-drawn illustration, but it's in 3D. Can you believe it? These are the inspirations. Holy crap, it's gonna be insane. Also, it's got this funny scene that I'm pitching you right now. Pitch here, I'm doing, it's a funny scene. So it's also sort of like prototyping as many of those ideas in a loose way as you can, so they can see it and they can sort of share in this dream with you, because a lot of you guys clapped at the Isaacan image. Like, if you've seen Isaacan, one of the things that's amazing about that show is it really shows you what it's like to be an animator, because it's basically one person has a crazy idea in their head, and they have to invite everyone else into this like weird D&D scenario they have in their head, and they're like, it's gonna be like this, and this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, and you have to get those people excited as you are, so you show them all the things that excite you about it. So that's sort of the best I can, is show them, is prototype things and make little cool exciting versions of things. Like, for example, on Mitchell's, like, we did a 3D test really early on that was like what we wanted the look to be like, and even though it's kind of a cheat, it got people excited. They're like, oh shit, it's gonna look like a drawing, that's cool. And then the same thing for like, oh, and then the robots are gonna look like that, that's cool. And it was just a painting, it wasn't like a whole 3D thing. So I would just try to get, and we also did a little scene before the movie was greenlit or anything that was like this scene of the family kidnapping the president, and it was Obama at the time. And it was like, for a long time, I was like, Obama's gonna be in the movie. We gotta get permission. And then they were like, don't. And then Trump got elected, and it all went to shit. But anyway, so yeah, just making little prototypes, and then also sort of trying to get people as excited as you are by showing them your influences and your inspirations and where you think you're going. It's like you're building a roadmap to the end result that you want to go to, and you have to like invite people to walk along with that path with you.
Awesome. Great.
Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is a good note to end on. I'm sorry we don't have time for more questions, but let's give it up again for Mike Rianda.
Thank you for coming. I love your city and your school. You guys are beautiful.